Tell me how much someone loves, and I will tell you how much he has seen of God. Tell me how much he loves, and I will tell you how much he lives with God. Tell me how much he loves, and I will tell you how far into the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of harmony, he has entered. For love is the fulfilling of the law. This is the spirit of infinite love. The moment we recognize ourselves as one with it, we become so filled with love that we see only the good in all. And when we realize that we are all one with this infinite spirit, then we realize, in a sense, we are all one with each other. When we come into a recognition of this fact, we can then do no harm to anyone, to anything. We find that we are all members of the one great body, and that no portion of the body can be harmed without all the other portions suffering thereby. When we fully realize the great fact of the oneness of all life, that all are partakers from this one infinite source, and so that the same life is the life of each individual, then prejudices go and hatreds cease. Love grows and reigns supreme. Then, wherever we go, wherever we come in contact with fellow man, we are able to recognize the God within. We thus look only for the good, and we find it. It always pays. There is a deep scientific fact underlying the great truth. He that takes the sword shall perish by the sword. The moment we come into a realization of the subtle powers of the thought forces, we can quickly see that the moment we entertain any thoughts of hatred toward another, he gets the effects of these diabolical forces that go out from us, and has the same thoughts of hatred aroused in him, which in turn return to the sender. Then when we understand the effects of the passion, hatred, or anger, even upon the physical body, we can see how detrimental, how expensive this is. The same is true in regard to all kindred thoughts or passions, envy, criticism, jealousy, scorn. In the ultimate, we shall find that in entertaining feelings of this nature toward another, we always suffer far more than the one toward whom we entertain them. And then when we fully realize the fact that selfishness is at the root of all error, sin, and crime, and that ignorance is the basis of all selfishness, with what charity we come to look upon the acts of all. It is the ignorant man who seeks his own ends at the expense of the greater whole. It is the ignorant man, therefore, who is the selfish man. The truly wise man is never selfish. He is a seer and recognizes the fact that he, a single member of the one great body, is benefited in just the degree that the entire body is benefited. And so he seeks nothing for himself that he would not equally seek for all mankind. If selfishness is at the bottom of all error, sin, and crime, and ignorance is the basis of all selfishness, then when we see a manifestation of either of these qualities, if we are true to the highest within us, we will look for and will seek to call forth the good in each individual with whom we come in contact. When God speaks to God, then God responds and shows forth as God. But when the devil speaks to devil, then devil responds, and the devil is always to pay. Sometimes I hear a person say, "I don't see any good in him." No? Then you are no seer. Look deeper and you will find the very God in every human soul. But remember, it takes a God to recognize a God. Christ always spoke to the highest, the truest, and the best in men. He knew and he recognized the God in each because he had first realized it in himself. He ate with publicans and sinners. Abominable, the scribes and Pharisees said. They were so wrapped up in their own conceits, their own self-centeredness, hence their own ignorance, that they had never found the God in themselves, and so they never dreamed that it was the real life of even publicans and sinners. In the degree that we hold a person in the thought of evil or of error, do we suggest evil and error to him. In the degree that he is sensitively organized or not well individualized, and so, subject to the suggestions of the thought forces from others, will he be influenced. And so in this way we may be sharers in the very evil doing in which we hold another in thought. In the same way, when we hold a person in the thought of the right, the good, and the true, righteousness, goodness, and truth are suggested to him, and thus we have a most beneficent influence on his life and conduct. If our hearts go out in love to all with whom we come in contact, we inspire love, and the same ennobling and warming influence of love always return to us from those in whom we inspire them. There is a deep scientific principle underlying the precept: if you would have all the world love you, you must first love all the world. In the degree that we love, we will be loved. Thoughts are forces. Each creates its kind. Each comes back laden with the effect that corresponds to itself and of which it is the cause. Then let your secret thoughts be fair. They have a vital part and share. In shaping words and molding fate, God's system is so intricate. I know of no better practice than that of a friend who continually holds himself in an attitude of mind that he continually sends out his love in the form of the thought, "Dear everybody, I love you." And when we realize the fact that a thought invariably produces its effect before it returns, or before it ceases, we can see how he is continually breathing out a blessing, not only upon all with whom he comes in contact, but upon all the world. These same thoughts of love, moreover tokened in various ways, are continually coming to him from all quarters. Even animals feel the effects of these forces. Some animals are much more sensitively organized than many people are, and consequently they get the effects of our thoughts, our mental states, and emotions much more readily than many people do. Therefore, whenever we meet an animal, we can do it good by sending out to it these thoughts of love. It will feel the effects whether we simply entertain or whether we voice them, and it is often interesting to note how quickly it responds and how readily it gives evidence of its appreciation of this love and consideration on our part. What a privilege and how enjoyable it would be to live and walk in a world where we meet only gods. In such a world you can live. In such a world I can live. For in the degree that we come into this higher realization, do we see only the God in each human soul. And when we are thus able to see Him in every one we meet, we then live in such a world. And when we thus recognize the God in everyone, we by this recognition help to call it forth ever more and more. What a privilege! This privilege of yours, this privilege of mine! That hypocritical judging of another is something then with which we can have nothing to do, for we have the power of looking beyond the evolving, changing, error-making self, and seeing the real, the changeless, the eternal self which by and by will show forth in the full beauty of holiness. We are then large enough also to realize the fact that when we condemn another, by that very act we condemn ourselves. This realization so fills us with love that we continually overflow it, and all with whom we come in contact feel its warming and life-giving power. These in turn send back the same feelings of love to us, and so we continually attract love from all quarters. Tell me how much someone loves, and I will tell you how much he has seen of God. Tell me how much he loves, and I will tell you how much he lives with God. Tell me how much he loves, and I will tell you how far into the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of harmony, he has entered. For love is the fulfilling of the law. And in a sense, love is everything. It is the key to life, and its influences are beyond those that move the world. Live only in the thought of love for all, and you will draw love to you from all. Live in the thought of malice or hatred, and malice and hatred will come back to you. For evil poisons malice shafts, like boomerangs return, inflicting wounds that will not heal, while rage and anger burn. Every thought you entertain is a force that goes out, and every thought comes back laden with its kind. This is an immutable law. Every thought you entertain has moreover a direct effect upon your body. Love and its kindred emotions are the normal and the natural, those in accordance with the eternal order of the universe, for God is love. These have a life-giving, health-engendering influence upon your body, besides beautifying your countenance, enriching your voice, and making you ever more attractive in every way. And as it is true that in the degree that you hold thoughts of love for all, you call the same from them in return, and as these have a direct effect upon your mind, and through your mind upon your body, it is as so much life force added to your own from without. You are then continually building this into both your mental and physical life, and so your life is enriched by its influence. Hatred and all its kindred emotions are the unnatural, the abnormal, the perversions, and so out of harmony with the eternal order of the universe. For if love is the fulfilling of the law, then these, its opposites, are direct violations of the law, and there can never be a violation of law without its attendant pain and suffering in one form or another. There is no escape from this. And what is the result of this particular form of violation? When you allow thoughts of anger, hatred, malice, jealousy, envy, criticism, or scorn to exercise sway, they have a corroding and poisoning effect upon the organism. They pull it down, and if allowed to continue, will eventually tear it to pieces by externalizing themselves in the particular forms of disease they give rise to. And then, in addition to the destructive influences from your own mind, you are continually calling the same influences from other minds, and these come as destructive forces augmenting your own, thus aiding in the tearing down process. And so love inspires love, hatred breeds hatred. Love and goodwill stimulate and build up the body. Hatred and malice corrode and tear it down. Love is a savor of life unto life. Hatred is a savor of death unto death. There are loyal hearts, there are spirits brave, there are souls that are pure and true. Then give to the world the best you have, and the best will come back to you. Give love, and love to your heart will flow. A strength in your utmost need. Have faith, and a score of hearts will show their faith in your word and deed. I hear it said, how in regard to one who bears me hatred, towards whom I have entertained no such thoughts and feelings, and so have not been the cause of his becoming my enemy. This may be true, but the chances are that you will have but few enemies if there is nothing of an antagonistic nature in your mind and heart. Be sure there is nothing of this nature. But if hatred should come from another without apparent cause on your part, then meet it from first to last with thoughts of love and goodwill. In this way you can, so to speak, so neutralize its effects that it cannot reach you and so cannot harm you. Love is positive and stronger than hatred. Hatred can always be conquered by love. On the other hand, if you meet hatred with hatred, you simply intensify it. You add fuel to the flame already kindled, upon which it will feed and grow, and so you increase and intensify the evil conditions. Nothing is to be gained by it. Everything is to be lost. By sending love for hatred, you will be able so to neutralize it that it will not only have no effect upon you, but it will not be able to even reach you. But more than this, you will by this course sooner or later be able literally to transmute the enemy into the friend. Meet hatred with hatred, and you degrade yourself. Meet hatred with love, and you elevate not only yourself, but also the one who bears you hatred. The Persian sage has said, "Always meet petulance with gentleness, and perverseness with kindness. A gentle hand can lead even an elephant by a hair. Reply to thine enemy with gentleness. Opposition to peace is sin." The Buddhist says, "If a man foolishly does me wrong, I will return him the protection of my ungrudging love. The more evil comes from him, the more good shall go from me." The wise man avenges injuries by benefits, says the Chinese. Return good for evil, overcome anger by love. Hatred never ceases by hatred, but by love, says the Hindu. The truly wise man or woman will recognize no one as an enemy. Occasionally we hear the expression, "Never mind, I'll get even with him." Will you? And how will you do it? You can do it in one of two ways. You can, as if you have in mind, deal with him as he deals, or apparently deals with you. Pay him, as we say, in his own coin. If you do this, you will get even with him by sinking yourself to his level, and both of you will suffer by it. Or you can show yourself the larger. You can send him love for hatred, kindness for ill treatment, and so get even with him by raising him to the higher level. But remember that you can never help another without by that very act helping yourself. And if forgetful of self, then in most all cases the value to you is greater than the service you render another. If you are ready to treat him as he treats you, then you show clearly that there is in you that which draws the hatred and ill treatment to you. You deserve what you are getting and should not complain, nor would you complain if you were wise. By following the other course, you most effectually accomplish your purpose. You gain a victory for yourself, and at the same time you do a great service for him, for which it is evident he stands greatly in need. Thus you become his Savior. He in turn may become the Savior of other error-making and consequently care-encumbered men and women. Many times the struggles are greater than we can ever know. We need more gentleness and sympathy and compassion in our common human life. Then we will neither blame nor condemn. Instead of blaming or condemning, we will sympathize, and all the more, we will comfort one another, for the way is often dreary, and the feet are often weary, and the heart is very sad. There is a heavy burden bearing, when it seems that none are caring. And we half forget that ever we were glad. Comfort one another, with the hand clasped close and tender, with the sweetness love can render. And the looks of friendly eyes do not wait with grace unspoken, while life's daily bread is broken. Gentle speech is oft like manna from the skies. When we come fully to realize the great fact that all evil and error and sin, with all their consequent sufferings, come through ignorance, then whenever we see a manifestation of these in whatever form, if our hearts are right, we will have compassion, sympathy, and compassion for the one in whom we see them. Compassion will then change itself into love, and love will manifest itself in kindly service. Such is the divine method. And so instead of aiding and trampling and keeping a weaker one down, we will hold him up until he can stand alone and become the master. But all life growth is from within out, and one becomes a true master in the degree that the knowledge of the divinity of his own nature draws upon his inner consciousness and so brings him to a knowledge of the higher laws. And in no way can we so effectually hasten this dawning in the inner consciousness of another as by showing forth the divinity within ourselves simply by the way we live. By example and not by precept, by living, not by preaching, by doing, not by professing, by living the life, not by dogmatizing as to how it should be lived. There is no contagion equal to the contagion of life. Whatever we sow, that shall we also reap, and each thing sown produces of its kind. We can kill not only by doing another bodily injury directly, but we can and we do kill by every antagonistic thought. Not only do we thus kill, but while we kill we suicide. Many a man has been made sick by having the ill thoughts of a number of people centered upon him. Some have been actually killed. Put hatred into the world, and we make it a literal hell. Put love into the world, and heaven with all its beauties and glories becomes a reality. Not to love is not to live, or it is to live a living death. The life that goes out in love to all is the life that is full and rich, and continually expanding in beauty and in power. Such is the life that becomes even more inclusive, and hence larger in its scope and influence. The larger the man and the woman, the more inclusive they are in their love and their friendships. The smaller the man and the woman, the more dwarfed and dwindling their natures, the more they pride themselves upon their exclusiveness. Anyone, a fool or an idiot, can be exclusive. It comes easy. It takes and it signifies a large nature to be universal, to be inclusive. Only the man or woman of small, personal, self-centered, self-seeking nature is exclusive. The man or the woman of a large, royal, unself-centered nature never is. The small nature is the one that continually strives for effect. The larger nature never does. The one goes here and there in order to gain recognition, in order to attach himself to the world. The other stays at home and draws the world to him. The one loves merely himself. The other loves all the world, but in his larger love for all the world he finds himself included. Verily then, the more one loves, the nearer he approaches to God, for God is the Spirit of infinite love. And when we come into the realization of our oneness with this infinite Spirit, then divine love so fills us that, enriching and enrapturing our own lives, From them it flows out to enrich the life of all the world. In coming into the realization of our oneness with the infinite life, we are brought at once into right relations with our fellow men. We are brought into harmony with the great law, that we find our own lives in losing them in the service of others. We are brought to a knowledge of the fact that all life is one, and so that we are all parts of the one great whole. We then realize that we can't do for another without at the same time doing for ourselves. We also realize that we cannot do harm to another without by that very act doing harm to ourselves. We realize that the man who lives to himself alone lives a little dwarfed and stunted life because he has no part in this larger life of humanity. But the one who in service loses his own life in this larger life has his own life increased and enriched 1,000 or million-fold, and every joy, every happiness, everything of value coming to each member of this greater whole comes as such to him, for he has a part in the life of each and all. And here let a word be said in regard to true service. Peter and John were one day going up to the temple, and as they were entering the gate they were met by a poor cripple who asked them for alms. Instead of giving him something to supply the day's needs and then leaving him in the same dependent condition for the morrow and the morrow, Peter did him a real service, and a real service for all mankind by saying, "Silver and gold I have none, but such as I have I give unto thee." And then he made him whole. He thus brought him into the condition where he could help himself. In other words, the greatest service we can do for another is to help him to help himself. To help him directly might be weakening, though not necessarily. It depends entirely upon circumstances. But to help one to help himself is never weakening, but always encouraging and strengthening, because it leads him to a larger and stronger life. There is no better way to help one to help himself than to bring him to a knowledge of himself. There is no better way to bring one to a knowledge of himself than to lead him to a knowledge of the powers that are lying dormant within his own soul. There is nothing that will enable him to come more readily or more completely into an awakened knowledge of the powers that are lying dormant within his own soul than to bring him into the conscious, vital realization of his oneness with the infinite life and power, so that he may open himself to it in order that it may work and manifest through him. We will find that these same great truths lie at the very bottom of the solution of our social situation. And we will also find that we will never have a full and permanent solution of it until they are fully recognized and built upon.